Like, guys, did you know that World of Warcraft has a botting problem? I certainly never heard of it. But, I don't know, maybe Blizzard will fix it.
If you've played Classic WoW for any meaningful amount
Surely.
of time, then you already know how bad the RMT problem has become. Gold buying, bots, inflation, none of this is new. We've been having the same conversations since 2019, and yet here we are in 2026, still experiencing the same exact problems.
Hey, you wanted no changes, huh? Player said that. Player asked Blizzard no changes, they told him. And Blizzard listened. So why are we complaining now?
At some point, Blizzard needs to decide what they're actually going to do with the RMT problem in Classic. Are they going to become more aggressive with combating illegal activity, or are they just going to implement the WoW token? Because right now, it feels like...
What do you think? What do you think will happen? Do you think that Blizzard will skip an opportunity to gain more money? By the way, let me move myself so I won't be in his way. Like, do you really think that Blizzard Entertainment will skip the opportunity to make more doubloons? Dog, that ain't gonna happen.
RMT is only taken seriously when a major scandal happens or a ban wave gets announced, and that's clearly not solving the problem. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I think we've reached a point where Blizzard needs to stop pretending this isn't an issue. This isn't something that suddenly appeared in TBC Anniversary. This isn't something that started with recent news of guilds like Dents getting deleted for buying gold, and it certainly isn't something limited to a handful of servers. RMT has been one of the biggest discussions in World of Warcraft since the game launched in 2004, and it's been especially bad since Classic.
It shouldn't even be a discussion, just ban him. Like, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that RMT is bad and unhealthy for a good MMORPG long term. Everyone knows that. Blizzard knows that. The reason they don't do anything is because they're incompetent and lazy. There's only one solution, which a private server named TurtleWow, if you ever heard of it, has implemented. Make a GM actually play the server he's on. If you do that, you can easily track and ban these bots. Yes, it's a constant effort, but you have someone in charge that actually takes care of the problem.
Launched in 2019. It's
that simple
in every version. We've seen it in Classic Era, Season of Mastery, Season of Discovery, TBC Classic in 2021, and now we're seeing it probably at its worst in TBC Anniversary. The version of the game might change, but the conversation never does. It's always the same topics: bots, gold buying, inflation, suspicious activity, ban waves, and every few months the community ends up right back where it started, talking about the same exact problem. That's what makes this situation so frustrating. After Classic running for almost 7 years at the time of this video releasing, it doesn't feel like we're any closer to a real solution.
Damn, it's been so long. What? My God, time truly flies by. That's crazy, man. I'm old.
Than we were when Classic first
Don't
launched.
say that. It was only yesterday.
That often gets overlooked in these discussions is that players aren't just sitting around complaining. Players actively report bots. They report gold sellers. They submit tickets that they have to wait days for to get a response from. They post evidence online. They make forum posts. Players even create videos about it. Hence me.
No one cares. Blizzard know all of that. It doesn't matter, man. Like, oh, man. Like, players are so delusional sometimes. I actually can. Like, do you really think that Blizzard can target, let's take retail as an example, do you really think they can target, like, 1,700 druids at the same spot spamming Moonfire? Like, really? Like, just think of it for a second. Of course they can. But bots are doing this so brazenly and in such an overt way, they don't even bother hiding anymore because they know that Blizzard don't give a shit. They know that. They do not care, and that's why they do it. If Blizzard cared, none of this would have happened. If Blizzard cared, the game would have been good. The only reason WoW sucks balls is because Blizzard only care about money.
creating one. Players try to bring attention to what they believe is happening throughout the game, and yet many players feel like those reports go nowhere. Whether that's completely true or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because the perception has become so widespread throughout the community. Players see bots farming around the clock. They see suspicious activity that gets reported repeatedly and goes unanswered. They even see the same complaints showing up year after year, and when they don't see visible action, confidence in the system starts to disappear. And at some point, players stop asking whether a bot was reported. They start asking whether reported.
The confidence in the system didn't disappear, it vanished. There is nothing left, especially after they banned this 20 years gaming veteran. Like, we watched the video on this channel. Like, we watched it. It was so stupid. And they didn't even bother to elaborate on the insane reasoning they had for banning him. Because it was a false flag, and everyone knows it. But no, it just, I'm just tired.
Even matters. That's not a good place for the community to be in. You know, recently Blizzard took one of the most aggressive actions we've seen against RMT in Classic WoW with the deletion of the guild Dents, and regardless of where...
Would a cell phone server solve this? A cell phone server, as like cool as it may sound, it's not a real long-term solution, because people do love the auction house. So you can disable a whole feature because Blizzard is too lazy to ban a few bots. Like, you can't just do that. It's like going to the doctor when your arm hurts and he just chops off your arm. It doesn't make any sense, right? You need to actually solve the problem rather to go and do all of this crazy, erratic solutions.
You stand on that situation. I think the reaction from the community was incredibly revealing. A lot of players weren't talking about Dents, they were talking about RMT overall. The conversation quickly shifted toward how widespread players believe RMT has become throughout Classic. Whether those claims are accurate or not isn't really the point. The point is that a large portion of the community clearly believes this is a huge problem, and honestly, I understand why players feel that way, because for years we have watched the same cycle repeat itself. You know, some type of RMT scandal happens, a ban wave happens, Blizzard takes action against a high-profile target like a guild, then eventually the conversation dies down until the next incident arrives.
Yes, because all that Blizzard loves doing is keeping your head above water. The moment you're about to drown, they'll give you an uplift, but then you're cooked. They'll wait until you drown again, and they'll come again to kind of give you a hand. Once you're above water again, they're gonna leave, and that's the cycle. They're constantly keeping you 1 second away from drowning. That's their modus operandi. That's how they operate. It is what it is. Yeah, don't worry, all Azeroth's champion has arrived. You too? That's crazy. I thought Magni only wanted me. Yeah, you need to combine self-found with hardcore for population. Listen, it can work for one server, but it's not for everyone.
Problems that many players
don't
do feel like the underlying
it's just
issue
not everyone's
is
cup
ever
of tea.
truly being addressed, and one of the biggest consequences of RMT is its impact on the economy. There are multiple factors that influence an MMO economy, but it would be difficult to argue that bots constantly generating gold and resources have no impact whatsoever. Every version of Classic eventually reaches the same point. Players start talking about the cost of consumes, the cost of materials, the cost of raid prep, the cost of enchants and gems, and eventually players begin asking, why does everything feel so expensive? Again, RMT isn't the only reason, but it's also difficult to separate the economy from years of botting and illegal gold activity entering the game that does increase the overall price of items.
Because the gold is already in circulation through the market. So you can't really take that back without resetting the game or just releasing a new expansion. And by new expansion, I mean the same expansion you've played 100 of times before.
The average player notices these things. They notice when farming feels less rewarding, they notice when prices continue to climb, and they notice when participating in the economy feels increasingly frustrating. What makes this situation even more interesting is currently where we are. This isn't the first time we've played TBC. It's not even the second. This is the third time. You know, players know the raids, they know the professions, they know the gold farm.
You want to play it for the fourth time? You better shut the hell up, boy. Don't tempt me.
They know the economy. Players
TBC
know how to
remix.
optimize almost every aspect of the game, and despite all of that experience, RMT remains one of the biggest discussions and problems in
TBC remix would probably be Illidan telling you whenever you enter the Black Temple, you are prepared.
in the community. That should be setting off alarm bells, because if the problem is still significant after multiple versions of Classic, then whatever Blizzard is currently doing clearly isn't enough. This is where my biggest frustration comes from. I don't know what Blizzard's long-term plan is with RMT, and I don't think most players do either. Right now it feels...
Guess what? Blizzard doesn't know either. Blizzard doesn't know because they don't plan anything. They're always 2 steps behind. They have no idea what they're gonna do next. That's why you have no clear roadmap right now, and that's why nobody really knows if we're gonna get Warlords of Draenor Classic after Pandaria, or we're gonna have like this WoW Camelot thing. Nobody really knows. We don't even know if we're gonna get Wrath of the Lich King again after the anniversary ends. It's because Blizzard doesn't know. They decide on the fly. They look at their next quarterly update and they're like, damn, how fast we need cash. We need it right now? Okay, release Wrath of the Lich King. These fools, they will purchase it all over again. Reverse Nikado Avocado? Exactly. I couldn't have said that better myself. They're always 2 steps behind.
It's like Blizzard is stuck somewhere in the middle. They don't appear willing to aggressively eliminate RMT, but they also don't appear willing to fully embrace alternate solutions. So what happens? Bots continue operating, gold buying continues, inflation continues, players continue complaining. Then eventually another ban wave happens, big whoop, the cycle repeats all over again. At some point, Blizzard needs to pick a direction. If they believe RMT threatens the integrity of the game, then commit to fighting it. It's against your TOS. Act faster, be more aggressive.
You know what else was against their TOS? Fridge raiding and cube crawling. But they did it. Nonetheless, they were thirsty for that milk. It looks so delectable inside of that fridge. Like, little Timmy didn't really need that. No. The 40-something-year-old balding men that barely worked on the product actually needed to consume that. Yeah. That is it.
Show players that reports matter. Show players...
Yeah, Blizzard knows players don't quit because of RMT, so why would they ban bots or care more? I think you're kind of wrong about that. Because let me explain why. RMT, yes, while you will not quit soullessly because of RMT, it's another dot, right? It's another addition to, let's call it the rage quit meter. It's a huge contributor to eventually just go and overflow, and eventually you'll quit. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if too many bad things and problems pile up, you just have enough. It's the same with me in retail. Like, I love some aspects in retail. I love Mythic Plus, I love raiding, and, you know, collecting stuff. Like, this is fun. We can all agree on that, I think. I don't like all the 90% of the stuff about retail WoW. And that's why I ended up quitting. I can deal with a bad story. I can deal with a subpar gameplay. I can deal with an uninteresting and uninspiring talent tree. I can deal with all of that on its own. Whenever you combine all of that, it's just too much. I can't take it anymore. And that's why I quit. And it's the same with Classic. You have bots being rampant. Your botting issue is completely out of hand. Economy's completely butchered. Secret GDKP fight clubs managing in the guild halls. It's not fun. And of course, rampant toxicity because of retail WoW mentality that seeped into Classic. So all of these issues prevent me from playing TBC Anniversary at the moment. It's just a lot of problems. Individually, I can agree with you. But on a much larger scale, it just contributes to a huge problem.
That the rules are being enforced consistently, because from a player's perspective, that's not what it feels like right now. Now, this is where things get controversial. I've been against a WoW...
Yeah, TBC pop is stable since release. Yeah, but it's not even remotely close to the numbers they pulled back in the day. Or the numbers they did when they re-released it for the second time. Of course it's popular because no other MMO is as good as World of Warcraft. People has no alternative. Listen, you really need to understand. World of Warcraft will always have a substantial amount of people playing it because people are addicted. There's nothing else out there like World of Warcraft. So even with all of the problems, like, people will play it. That is always true, and it will always be true. Like, you can't replace World of Warcraft other than giving other people some great product. If there was a product online that was on vanilla WoW level, do you think anyone would have played TBC? Because I know that no one would. For a fact, I know no one would. But since there are 0 MMOs at the moment that can even compete with World of Warcraft, that's why it has such a population. Because simply nobody can beat old Blizzard.
Token being implemented in Classic for years. I don't think it belongs in Vanilla, and I also don't think it belongs in Classic Plus. But when it comes to Anniversary, especially if Wrath ends up happening, I think Blizzard needs to stop sitting on the fence. Because if the long-term plan is aggressively combating RMT, then show us. If the long-term plan eventually is adding the WoW token, then why not just do that right now? What doesn't make sense is continuing this middle ground approach where illegal RMT remains widespread while Blizzard occasionally steps in during major incidences like the guild dents funneling 250,000.
But they like to play the middlemen because they are the middlemen. They love to cash in on that sweet bot money because each bot is a paying customer. And they also like to keep the illusion of them fixing stuff, like the botting problem. They occasionally ban someone, people are like, oh, you know what, Blizzard's working on it. So it's essentially a win-win for them. They don't want to take one side or the other, they want to cash in on both sides.
1,000 gold through a
course.
bank. And honestly, like, I've never wanted the token in Classic, but after years of watching the same problem continue, it feels like
adding token doesn't combat RMT? No, it's just join in on the fun.
Blizzard is eventually going to have to make a choice one way or another. The one area where my opinion hasn't changed is Classic Plus. If Classic Plus eventually becomes a reality, I do not think the WoW token belongs there. Vanilla is different. The journey matters, the world matters, the economy matters. A huge part of Vanilla's appeal comes from earning your progress within the game itself. That's why I believe Blizzard needs to figure out what they're doing before Classic Plus arrives, because if RMT is already one of the biggest problems in Anniversary servers right now, it's only going to become a bigger discussion when players start entering Classic Plus. But what do you think? Should Blizzard crack down harder on RMT, or do you think the WoW token is ultimately the direction of where we're headed? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I think Blizzard should be abolished. I don't think Blizzard should exist in the current way they are, because right now they're screwing everything up and nothing in this game is good or fun. So yeah, they should absolutely do a check on themselves and, you know, not only mentally but physically, and just boot everyone who was involved with Warcraft in the previous 10 years. Yeah, ban Holly from the company, exactly. That's what they should do. They should replace the entire HR department, just completely defund the Karen police, and hire a competent QA testers. That's what they should do ASAP. Yeah, I see the new Classic Plus Camelot coming this fall as a pay-to-play 3-month test. Yeah, the streamers just played a real release, will be later. Hopefully we'll resolve some of this. Listen, streamers, even if they did play the hidden Classic test, which I think they have, they don't really care. Streamers don't care about you, me, they don't care. All they care is about money. Money and reputation. They're basically a clout fiend. Okay, they're a bunch of cloud demons. Nobody really takes their... it's actually not true. Some people do take their opinion seriously. That's very unfortunate. But I will always say, never take streamers' opinions seriously. Okay, always draw a conclusion by yourself. If I see streamers being flown into California to Blizzard headquarters to play a mysterious product, which of course we know is Classic, right? I don't trust them. I don't, because they do it for the sake of PR, they do it for the sake of padding their own wallets, and you know they didn't really give Blizzard any advice whatsoever on how to build a game or make it appropriate for everyone, because they simply don't care. And if they would have consulted with us, but Blizzard doesn't care either. That's why it is like this, because it's all one bunch of giant PR move. That's it.